Kita langsung mulai ya. Halo Kak, I'll be
Hello.
your main interviewer. My name is Ayesha Aurellia, but you can call me Sasha. Um, can you tell us your name and a little bit of yourself?
Okay. Uh, in English, yeah, because it's English
Yeah.
literature. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Rakaputra Paputungan. People usually call me Raka. Well, my full-time job is as a project manager in a video game development company, but I am also a theater journalist. Usually, I write for BroadwayWorldIndonesia.com.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not .com, but BroadwayWorld.com, the Indonesia region articles and social media as well. And I am also often involved in community theater productions and some professional productions as well.
Okay. So let's just jump into the actual main part.
Yeah.
So, uh, what is art to you?
Okay. Well, art to me is something that is made by someone who wants to express something. Often it's their feeling, and it is quite difficult because almost anything can be art. Sometimes it's also in the intention of the artist themselves. If they have something that they want to tell, they want to share with the world, and there are so many kinds of art. So I think that is the best way that I can define it for now. It's like a creation that is made by someone who wants to express uh, something, basically something in their feelings usually.
Okay. Since you did say that you played in some community theater, how do you feel
Mhm.
when you are practicing it, like practicing the art or enjoying a work of art?
Okay, what I feel is, uh, well, I am the type of person who is sometimes a bit too analytical for my own good. So usually, uh, I tend to overthink about is what I'm trying to convey coming through to the audience, or the words, or whatever the medium it is that I use is effective in what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it's maybe if it's in acting, for example, is my gesture, is my line delivery effective in trying to convey what I want to convey. And also, I often think about whether or not I practice my art in a way that will connect to the audience. It is interesting because I have done some artistic work in English and Bahasa Indonesia as well. So of course, it's a different audience. Sometimes if you do a certain approach, it will connect to the maybe it's to the English speaking audience in Jakarta, for example, or maybe if I'm let's say I'm writing a story, will the choice of words connect with the global audience if that's who I am trying to like um, convey my feeling to my my artwork. Two is that are these choices of words effective? Will they make sense to the audience? But also that's my analytical side. But when I'm getting into the flow of things, when I'm really in the zone, I can feel like it's like I'm channeling my worries, my joys through my art, whether it's performance art or like sometimes I also write stories and stuff. But I also sometimes draw, although it's rare nowadays. I don't often draw anymore. But yeah, it's like there's a lot that goes into making a work of art, and it's it can be people will get what we're trying to say, but other times when I feel like I know I know what I want to say, and I know how I want to convey it, then it's like really a lot of fun to just create art, to just lose yourself in
Mm-hmm.
creating words, in acting a scene. And yeah, I think art can be both very free, but if you overthink it, it can be limiting as well because art is very subjective.
Okay. How do you feel when like someone misinterpret your art, how you distribute your art,
Okay.
like they do
Uh,
not get what you mean?
yeah. Uh, I think it's first of all, of course, as a human, sometimes my first feeling is like I'm a little bit annoyed or offended or hurt even, especially if they see my art as something that is offensive or something that is, something hurtful to them, even though that is almost never my intention. But after that, I to review like, oh, why did this person misread my art? Why did they misunderstand what I'm trying to say? But after that, because I am also an enjoyer of art, uh, I understand that sometimes there's not too much that you can do. It's not like I will go and DM that person like, hey, that's not what I meant. This is what I mean. Blah 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 blah. Because at the end, art is very subjective to one's life experiences and one's perspectives and biases as well. So rather than trying them directly, I think I just try to look through their perspective and see why my work of art can be misunderstood. But at the end of the day, since art is subjective, there's only so much that I can do, and part of being like putting your art to the world is accepting that people will see it differently, no matter how much you try to make it easily understood. But yeah, there's a limit because people come to your art and they view it or they experience it already with their own perspective and biases. So yeah.
Okay, I can see that you're a very passionate person, Ka. But would you consider art as your reason to live?
Mm, well, in a way, yes. But artists, for me, it's a means to an end because I know there are some artists out there who are already content and happy if they can whether or not anyone sees them, whether or not anyone enjoys their work of art. And I think it's also something admirable in its own way. But for me, mm, I think art is a medium in which I try to make people be happier. Usually, I like to write if it's for myself, and I like to write stories that are lighthearted and funny. But also, because I am a pianist as well, whenever I write about a piece of art, it's because I want people to be aware of musical theater in particular. It's basically my favorite form of art because it helps me to connect to my feelings in a way that is
Mm.
different from other forms of art because it has so many things. It has lyrics, music, acting, dancing, etc. And when I covered music theater, I was able to understand and connect to my emotions better. Like, okay, oh, this is just like uh, my feeling is just like when maybe like a character in a musical theater, maybe they also felt this way, and I could more easily understand and process those emotions because in musical theater, the emotions are put like front and center. So am I am a theater journalist because uh, I want to spread awareness about this art form, and maybe through my writings, people will learn about musical theater, and then they too can better help with their emotions. So it's like a little bit roundabout, but yes, art is one of my reasons to live.
Okay, thank you, Ka. Oh, have you recently felt bored or felt that there was something that's lacking with the art form you pursue?
Uh, I think I will focus on physical theater in Indonesia because that's my area of focus. Uh, but I think in general, we as a community, an industry, we lack the resources and the will to really work on the story itself. So because at the uh, at the end, well, like I said, for me, I see art as a way of to connect to people, to tell your feelings, your story, your experiences. So in a way, like the story or the narrative or the experience that you want to convey should be the foundation on which everything else is built upon. So like in musical theater, you have so many things to consider, like the lighting, the costume, the choreography, the acting, the singing, the music. But because there's so many things to consider, sometimes people lose focus on that story is the most important thing because it is the foundation on which everything else is built upon. And here in Indonesia, usually the story isn't given enough time to develop. It isn't given enough treatment. Like if we see how other countries that do musical theater that have musical theater ecosystem, usually they workshop the story first. They do readings. They do like small performances, so the writers can rework and revise the story to really make it that the message or the themes or the feelings that they want to convey really come true and all the elements work together to build upon that story. But here, because there's not that much funding, usually the story is only revised a few times. Maybe it's just revised by the scriptwriters themselves, or maybe a little input from the director. But they usually don't present it to an audience, which makes it like there's a lot of blind spots, and maybe they don't have enough perspectives. And sometimes people are really in their own head, like, okay, I know this story is awesome because I really like it and I am the one who write it, but it's not how people who come to see their art see it. Sometimes it's maybe too obscure, too obtuse, or like the message that they want to convey doesn't come true. And I think this is also something that's really common in other forms of art as well because I was I've worked as an editor in like a webtoon company as well. I also write as a hobby, and in my current job, I also uh, write sometimes. And it is a common problem with creative people. It's they are in their own heads and they have strong beliefs about their art and they are very attached to it, but they are not aware that other people might not see it that way. Other people might need more introduction. Other people might need it to be more easily understood. And yeah, I think that is the biggest problem that the story is not given enough development and consideration, both in musical theater in Indonesia and also in general in the creative industry in Indonesia. Well, yeah, that's basically it for me.
Okay, thank you for that. Some of my friends would like to ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask about what about games? Like, what do you think of its development?
Yeah, I think in development it's also a similar story, especially because in Indonesia, here the game development is still mostly by people who study it themselves. They don't have formal education. Of course, which is normal. It doesn't mean that people who have formal education will make better games necessarily, but because they learn it by themselves, then sometimes they focus more on creating a game that they like in a genre that they like, using features and gameplay systems that they like, uh, and they don't try to check if other people will enjoy it as well. if it feels good to play by different types of people. So that's usually why a lot of beginning game developers, especially here, they just want to make their dream game, their most ambitious game. Oh, I want to make game that is like Genshin Impact but set in Indonesia or whatever. And then the scale is too big and unrealistic, and it usually doesn't happen. So I think people need to learn that it's okay to start small. It's okay to start with something simple, and it's really good to share your work in progress with other people to see what they think and how they interact with the game that they are developing.
That's very interesting, Kak. Thank you. Do you feel like your interest in arts has changed over time, especially as someone who works actively in the art industry?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That is actually something I wanted to talk about as well, because if you talk about art in its purest form, then art is you can make an argument that art shouldn't have like any consideration for the economic side of things from the business side of things. But when we are talking about the modern world in which art can be monetized as well, but it is not necessarily a bad thing, because that means like people can make a livelihood from the artwork as well. Uh, so now after I joined the creative industry, uh, I see art from more sides. I should say that it is not only about the artist's intention or like their techniques, their materials and stuff, but when you're talking about the industry, then there's also business consideration as well. And it's always interesting to talk about whether or not the business side of things might change an artist's intention or an artwork in terms of like maybe making it more commercial, maybe making it comply with the censorship or like the regulations in their country or in their wherever they live, wherever they post and share their art. I think for me, it is not a black or white thing. I think it's just the reality of the world that we live in nowadays. That sometimes art can also have commercial considerations were in it as well, especially if if it's meant to be commercialized. So personally, as someone who creates art in both like a commercial context and in a personal context, I think it's just important to know whether or not you are creating an artwork or a art performance, whether or not you create it for commercial purposes, or do you want it to just, you know, make it for yourself, a personal project, or maybe you have another uh, intention, like maybe it's for educational purposes, maybe it's for an activism cause as well. So I think for an artist should be before they create the art, they should know why they are creating that artwork in the first place. Then after that, you can find a line. Let's say you are getting commercial artwork. Is there a line that you do not want to cross as an artist? Is there a point in which, like, if you concede too much to the commercial considerations, that then it will be, it will not longer be something that is honest from you. And that line, that point is different for everybody. So I think it's always a process of exploration for artists to see where they draw the line if they are making commercial work. And I think uh, for the audience as well, I think it's good to empathize more with an artist. Like maybe they create art that is more commercial, but then you like their previous works better. But perhaps that is what they need to do to survive, to make more money for themselves, for their family, or for their organization. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways uh, to create art, how to view art, and I think it is if you can if you can open your mind to it, it is very interesting. I think it is, it can train your empathy, but also like your mind and your knowledge as well to see why people create art and that there is no one right way to make an artwork. That is what I believe at least.
Okay. Speaking about internationally, Karen would actually say, wanna ask something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just have, let's just move to the next question first. The like after that I'm gonna ask the question.
Okay. Okay. What are your thoughts about contemporary arts, like art nowadays?
Okay. Um, I think with social media and the internet, it's easier than ever to access art from different parts of the world, from different people, and it's like really shaping how people create art as well because now they can draw more influences from other parts of the world. And I think it is a very good time to be someone who appreciates art because if you put in the work, then you can find all kinds of art that you like, from something that is very abstract to something that is very polished, that is something very mainstream to anything that is very niche. But you just need to work through it as well, through work through the noise to find what you like. Uh, but in general, I think art nowadays is in a good place. But of course, with the world that is like very based on capitalism, certain types of artwork will be pushed more because they create more commercial value for the shareholders. So like that, that's why some art is more mainstream, is more commercialized. You can find them more easily. But
Mm-hmm.
saying another way, because you have the access to different types of art, you just need to, uh, find the art or the artist that you like and then support them to show that, that you appreciate their art. So I think overall we are still in a pretty good spot.
Okay. So our group has been discussing things and we've come to like a conclusion or consensus, as you might say, and would like to discuss them one by one. And number one is like the shallowness of current arts. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think it still goes with my previous point in that like because of the system of capitalism, companies and even people are more incentivized to push art that is more easily accessible to as many people as possible. That is why usually there's like this lowest common
Mm-hmm.
denominator, as in art that is very accessible to everyone. Usually it is not too deep, not too personal, not too offensive to anyone. Uh, but that way they can reach a lot of people, and then maybe that those people will will purchase the product or whatever the art is associated with. Maybe it's for a brand, maybe it's for packaging, maybe it's for like ticket sales or anything. So yeah, I think it is true that uh, due to how the world works, there is a tendency for shallow or art that is very digestible to be made and to be promoted. But on the other hand, it's like when you're talking about current art, I think it can be tricky because people are still creating art even if you don't see it in the mainstream media. Like there are still sculptors in Jogja or maybe painters in Peru or in Tokyo or wherever. Uh, and if they create the art nowadays, I think that personally, I think that still counts as a current art. So, it's just how do you define what is current or not? And then if you are talking about the mainstream media, I do agree that mostly people will play it safe. Companies and investors will play it safe and make it as easily understood as possible. And that's what leads to the shallowness that we perceive in current mainstream media and channels.
Okay. The second one is quantity over quality. Can you give us some input on what you thought about that?
Yeah, I think it is quite similar with the point that we have been discussing. It's because uh, once again, like capitalism and like the industrial complex, they keep improving in creating art that is as quick as possible, as efficient as possible. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that uh, usually that comes with like, when you create something as fast as possible, then you cannot put more thought, more consideration into it. This is from my experience in the video game industry and as a video gamer myself. This is quite apparent in like in 2025 and 2026, like the trend is going for cozy, wholesome video games that is very cute. The art style is very soft and appealing. But then the companies that are behind this, usually they are like big companies with millions of dollars in funding that can hire a lot of people and create games as fast as possible, and then they use it to, they really make everything as efficient as possible. They make the art style that is most appealing, the gameplay that is most uh, accessible, and then they monetize it usually by using like transactions, selling diamonds or whatever the currency is. Uh, and then because it works, then other companies will also make similar games. That is why there's a lot of games and even artworks in general. Uh, because people who want to make as many artworks as possible for commercial purposes, they're getting really good at it. And people who want to create art for, maybe they just want to convey their feelings, maybe they want to platform a certain cause, or maybe they want to, promote a certain message. Uh, they are usually not as they don't uh, they don't prioritize efficiency and speed and quantity of production as much as possible because that is not what they pursue. So that is why I think why quantity is often, we see a lot of artworks or creative works, but the quality might suffer from that. I think that's because, yeah, the system is, becoming more efficient at churning out more and more works of art, but usually it means the quality or the heart or the intention is more shallow.
Mm, okay, let's move on to the other issue, which is
Mhm.
the originality and issues of AI.
Okay. Mm,
Your
so just
thoughts?
okay. Yeah, I think it is very concerning personally because as we all know, most AI is trained on data sets that are taken from the internet that's not that they don't ask for the artist consent, even though the artist created work, maybe they have gone through training or like, drafts, doing draft revisions, or they need to, find inspiration and that takes them so long, but the AI just take it into their training data set and then they use that data set to recreate images or videos based on the learnings that they took without the artist's consideration and without paying the artist, you know, money or any type of, feedback for them. And then that is just from the AI side and from the user side. I think uh, a lot of people are not as concerned about the art, and that is why AI can see popular use, especially with like the Ghibli art style that was popular like since 2 years ago. Uh, and that is why, sadly, I think AI became very popular very fast, and because it's still free, a lot of the most popular AI tools are free. That's why it's very accessible to the common people. I think it's quite concerning for first the reason that I said that uh, it took from artists without their permission. Secondly, because using AI will just make everything more generic, uh, more it's everything will look the same because AI cannot generate a new art style or artwork without any previous training set. And thirdly, uh, this is more from the creative industry perspective, but the work that is usually most replaceable by AI is the entry level jobs. So like your junior designers, your junior illustrators and stuff. But if you replace them with AI, then in 10 years, 15 years, there won't be enough experienced artists to, to lead projects, to create new art forms and art movements because they don't have the opportunity to, because people will just use AI instead of hiring new new people, junior artists and stuff. And this will create a negative effect. It will snowball because
Like lagi ya.
ah
Mm-hmm.
oh sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
Aman naman.
test
Can you backtrack to negative effect?
from the very first one.
Tadi kepotongnya di mana? I think. Yeah. I think it's okay if you repeat it slightly from negative effect tadi, the last one.
Okay, the negative effect is first the AI take art from the artist without permission. Secondly, it will create similar looking artwork because AI cannot create something that is truly new. And thirdly, it will take away opportunities for young artists, designers, creators, and writers from gaining more experience. And in 10 or 15 years, if we let this continue, then we will see a stagnation in the art because young people won't have the chance to, to experiment, to hone their craft, to get more experience. Uh, and yeah, I think those are like the three biggest issues with AI and the arts for me at this time.
Okay. Last but not least, the absurdity of modern arts.
The
Like,
absurdity.
yeah, like, do you know that one art, the banana plastered on the wall?
Oh yeah, modern art. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Mm, yeah, I think it's fine because there's enough room in the art for all kinds of art, from the abstract to the impressionist to the realist as well. I think it's good if you can, you know, uh, create a space where every artist can create with their own style and people can enjoy different types of art as well. And for me personally, I think art is also, well, when I said that art is meant in the beginning, I said that for me, art is something that an artist want to convey through their work. Usually it's like a feeling or maybe a theme or a subject. And if the banana on the wall makes people engage with it, maybe they feel disturbed, maybe they feel confused, maybe they feel amused, then I think it's already a form of art in itself. Because then that means like that work, that creation has, evoked the viewer to think, to feel, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, we have reached our end of the main questions. Uh, does my other friends would like to ask their personal ones? Maybe Karen, you said you want to ask.
Maybe for now, I want to ask about the last topic, about the absurdity of modern art, because it kind of opens a new perspective to me that, oh, maybe the current art about, like, for example, that the banana on the wall is actually maybe just showing about apa ya, different type of art than the older ones. Yet maybe the previous arts, like yang apa ya, more has more meaning, is maybe apa ya, become our standard gitu. But the modern arts currently is kind of stereotyped as like absurd. But maybe, do you think it can show each era's identity? I mean, like, different centuries we have different types of art. So, do you think it can like show about, yeah, each era's identity gitu?
Yeah, I think that is a good question because when I read about art history, I believe like previously, well, maybe you can, in your final website or project, you can also, uh, you know, uh, add your own research to this. But from what I understand, and it might be wrong, but from what I know, previously, back in the day, art is created as a way to deliver message, usually like religious message. That's why you see in Indonesia, for example, we have candi temples with the statues. In Western regions, you have like beautiful drawings about the Bible, about Bible stories. And in Islamic art, you have calligraphy. It's usually to convey the, religion, about how people should live their life, how they should engage with the spiritual or divine beings. And then after that, uh, people people are more interested in learning about how to create, especially in the West, to create some artwork that is very detailed and very realistic. That's why you see, very good, like very realistic paintings from maybe the 18th century, the 17th century. But if we see it nowadays, we can see, oh, why do you want to try and paint realistically so hard? We have videos now, we have cameras now. And that's why, uh, especially after the invention of the camera, I believe like people are now more, people back then, they experimented more with techniques like impressionism, in which like the object is not exactly the same as you will see in the real world, but maybe it has a different color, maybe the lines are more blurry. And then how does they evoke emotions in the viewer? Uh, and I think as that art becomes mainstream, as we are more familiar with such work, like okay, now we know even like most, well, let's say like educated Indonesian middle class, just to limit the scope, maybe people are already familiar like the works with the works of like Van Gogh or Raden Saleh or whoever it is. And then because people are inherently, they want to create something new, they want to be creative, then they create other forms of art. What if everything is angular? Then you create cubism. What if it's like not even realistic at all? Maybe it's just a banana slapped on a wall. Then how does that make people feel? I think it's like there's a sense of playfulness if you see it from if you see it from a positive perspective. Like it's a way for people to experiment to see if they can make other people feel a certain way. I think for the art themselves, I think it's very good for people to experiment with different works of art. But if we talk about art valuation, especially when someone puts $1 million or 2 million or $3 million on an artwork, then it becomes a bit more complicated. Because okay, first of all, because art is subjective, but secondly, because I believe if you look into it, there is also a little bit of a money laundering in the alley circles in which like people collect art and people get to say, okay, this art is good. This should be valued at a certain price point, and then that becomes like really complicated because like even for something like Labubu, which becomes like really, expensive and popular, but it was originally just like one character created by I believe like a South Korean artist who just draws the character because he enjoys it, and then the money machine says, okay, this is good, this is valuable, then it uh that it becomes very expensive. So I think personally, as someone who enjoys art, we need to see it from two ways. Like from the economic perspective, okay, who is setting the price for this? Is this like real? Are people buying it? Or is this like, is there something behind it? Is it like more about moving money around? Is it like about putting a certain perspective that people want to spread? Like, okay, this type of art should be valued highly, and this type of art shouldn't be valued highly. That's the economic perspective, but from the personal perspective, uh, I think we should try to see an artwork separate from its uh, you know uh, price point if possible, especially if it's like just visual, if it's like painting or statue that you can visit at a museum. I think it matters less for us as an art enjoyer how much the price people is setting it at, because it's more like about uh, how does that make you feel? Do you observe anything interesting from it? Does it connect you with the artist or maybe like the subject of the painting or the whatever the artwork is? I think those are two separate considerations: the commercial side of things and the emotional side of things. Yeah, I think it's good for us to see an artwork through different perspectives rather than just one. Yeah, I think that's my main takeaway.
Thank you so much for your
Mm.
insight, Raka.
Thank
We've
you.
reached our end of the interview. Thank you for
Mm.
your time and thank you.
Okay, so thank you so
Thank you
much as
very much.
well. It's been fun. Sorry we have to do it online, but yeah, good luck with everything as well. Bye bye. Have a good
Bye,
day.
Okay,
guys.
thank
Have a good
you.
Have a
day.
good day.
Have a
Day.
good day. Bye.